Alrighty, so we do have a quick break before the next game between Pumas versus New England Revolution is going to happen in CCL. This is a good time for me to do a quick news of the week episode, though I do have a feeling most likely I might actually miss the first couple of minutes of that game because, usually when I do a news of the week video, that video usually is like 10 to 20 minutes depending on how much news that we got. And, this past week we definitely had some more transfer rumors and even a signing that has happened this week, and one of those signing came from the expansion team that is going to be coming into the league next season. That is St. Louis City SC, as they have signed goalkeeper Roman Burki from Borussia Dortmund. Now, this has been a rumor that has been talked about for these past couple of days, and really, this was something that we thought that it could happen last week, but as the days go by and it seems like it looked like more likely that is going to happen, well, it's unsurprising that it finally did happen, and that, yeah, this is a huge signing for St. Louis City SC, and I'm interested to see what kind of contract that St. Louis is going to offer Roman Burki, because, I do think that, Burki, especially with the way that he was actually a starting goalkeeper for Dortmund, and that he was actually regarded as one of the more upcoming goalkeeper in the world a couple of years ago. I mean, it feels like this is an absolute steal that St. Louis is actually able to acquire him, and especially the fact that, I actually don't know what has happened to him. I have heard people said that he actually doesn't play for Dortmund regularly. I could be wrong though, because I haven't been paying as much attention toward those European league as I used to. But overall, this is a big signing for St. Louis City SC, and again, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not if this is actually a DP contract, because, my rule, or not really my rule, but really the unwritten rule of MLS is that you do not spend one of your DP tag on a goalkeeper. And, as good as Roman Burki is going to be when he comes into this league, I mean, that feels like it's something that is going to be a bit of a burden for St. Louis, especially if they can, of course, maybe sign some DP attacker going forward. I mean, so far, I will say that St. Louis City has done a really good job in terms of building their squad. I mean, they must have took notes of what Charlotte did in heading into the expansion year, and they basically said, yeah, we're not going to do what they did, and that, of course, is kind of waited too long before when the expansion season approached. Yeah, their head coach basically openly said that they're screwed. Now, the Vancouver Whitecaps have signed Cody Cropper off a free agency. I think this is a decent signing for the Whitecaps, who, they need a backup goalkeeper to back up Thomas Hassel. And while Cody Cropper has been kind of a guy that is just basically used as a backup goalkeeper, he's still a good, decent backup goalkeeper that comes in. So, yeah, I think this is a good signing for the Whitecaps, especially a good backup plan in case if Thomas Hassel does go down with an injury. Now, FC Dallas have re-signed homegrown midfielder Brendan Cervania to a long-term deal, though I have a feeling most likely he's not going to be staying with FC Dallas for a very long time, or even to the end of this long-term deal that they have reached, because we've seen before where Dallas tends to sign a lot of these youngsters, especially coming out of their academy, to long-term deal. This is just them saying that, yeah, we'll make sure we're going to lock them up for a long time, so that, if their contract goes up, or their contract does eventually expire, teams don't just decide to pick our guys off of a free transfer, and especially those big hungry European team that is looking for a lot of these good talented players coming out of the FC Dallas Academy. And this is a good example of it. I think Brendan Cervania, you can definitely see he could be a guy that can be heading to Europe, and especially he has had a great start to this season. I mean, he could be, again, that next big guy, that next Ricardo Pepi that comes out of the FC Dallas Academy and eventually go off to Europe, and Dallas is going to receive a big sum of money for that. Now, Chase Gasper has voluntarily entered MLS Substance Abuse Behavior Program, also known as SABH. And yeah, I mean, this pretty much is an answer of what has gone on with Chase Gasper. Now, originally, Chase Gasper, I know he's been out with a concussion, and, when it was announced that he was actually on the bench against the Red Bulls, I was thinking, okay, looks like maybe he is back after recovering from that concussion. But now I've heard that he is going to be going into this program. This basically tells that, yeah, maybe more serious than what we thought originally. And it sucks because, you know, Minnesota, they have had a history in terms of players that comes into their team and suffer either a concussion or any health issue, and eventually they never come back. I mean, guys like Sam Cronin and Iko Parr comes up into mind, and I'm just hoping that's not going to be the same case for Chase Gasper. But that being said, the good news for the Loons is that at least they immediately had a backup plan, because immediately after this news broke out that Chase Gasper could potentially be out for the Loons for long term, they decided to find his replacement, and his replacement apparently is going to be Toronto FC fullback Kemar Lawrence. Now, obviously, if this does happen, I think this is a big signing for the Loons, and that, you know, for Kemar Lawrence, I know that some people say that he didn't do well last season with TFC, and he was part of the problem of just an absolute hot garbage backline that this TFC team had last season. I didn't think so. I thought Kemar Lawrence showed some brilliance. I mean, he's definitely not at the level as what we saw during his day with the Red Bulls, but still, I think this would be a good upgrade, and I still do consider him being one of the best fullbacks in the league. So yeah, with the way that if Minnesota is able to pull this deal off, which it seems like it is going to happen, because I've heard multiple sources saying that this deal is going to be finalized, and I'm also interested to see how much Minnesota is going to give up for Kemar Lawrence, because most sources that I've read, they didn't mention exactly how much that the Loons are going to give up in terms of game money, or if there is going to be a player that they're going to trade to TFC in exchange for Kemar Lawrence. One name that I have heard recently is Dane Sinclair, which I think if the Loons decide to give Dane Sinclair in exchange for Kemar Lawrence, that is a bad trade. I mean, I feel like, you know, I know the situation with Dane Sinclair, and there's been rumors, the fact that, you know, yes, he has signed a long-term contract with this team, but how much do you think that he's probably going to be leaving, or maybe one of the goalkeeper for this team is going to be leaving? Because I did say that after that incredible performance that the Red Bulls had, all of a sudden Minnesota has a bit of an issue with the goalkeeping position, and in some way a good issue to have, because you have one decent veteran goalkeeper in Tyler Miller, and then you have another decent goalkeeper that is definitely an uprising star and can definitely be the future of a top 5 goalkeeper in this league, and even for the Canadian national team in Dane Sinclair. I mean, I'm assuming, I won't be surprised by the end of the season, one of them potentially is not going to be no longer on this team. But, you know, if I had to pick, I would have chose Dane Sinclair over Tyler Miller. And this is nothing against Tyler Miller. I think he's a decent goalkeeper, but I do see the upside more on Dane Sinclair, and that it wouldn't make sense for the Loons to decide to lock him on a long-term contract if they didn't, of course, see him to be a guy that is going to be the future in terms of the goalkeeping position for this team. But again, going back to what's related to this, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, Minnesota would be stupid to try to trade Dane Sinclair to Kemar Lawrence, and that goes the same thing for TFC too, which, you know, I'm kind of questioning this move from TFC, where they're already kind of a little bit short in the back, and now they trade away one of their better defender from last season. Yeah, this kind of doesn't make sense. And again, I have here for some TFC fans are kind of confused about this. Like, why would they decide to trade someone, like, unless if they're going to get a decent player back from this doesn't really make sense for them to trade one of their defensive piece when they're already very short-handed in terms of that spot coming into this season. Now, the Houston Dynamo is reported to sign Brazilian winger Thiago Nuno from Flamengo. Now, I haven't heard a lot about this kid and whether or not if he's good or not, but from what I've seen, it seems like that this could be a good deal for the Dynamo, and especially with the way that, you know, we know the Dynamo lately, they have definitely upped their game in terms of being more ambitious, and that, you know, Ted Seagulls is definitely a man of his word right now. Like, he is definitely making some big signings that we have never seen the Dynamo have made during their time in MLS, and yeah, good for them, and hopefully they do get this deal done and continue to prove that, yeah, this rebuild that we're going through, it's not going to last long. It's going to be relatively quick, and we're starting to get ourselves back to where we were in the early 2010s. Now, St. Louis City SC, of course, I mentioned they signed Roma and Burki, but they're also report to sign Swedish international defender Joakim Son, and he is a guy that is actually currently playing for Armenia Bielefeld in the Bundesliga. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was a Armenia Bielefeld player that is coming to MLS, and I don't know if I'm mistaken this, but I think he's also joining St. Louis City. So something tells me St. Louis really loves the Bundesliga and especially love that team to scout some of their player and bring to MLS. And I don't blame them because, you know, Bielefeld, I think they have had a season where, you know, it's an okay season for a team that just got promoted in the second division of German soccer, and that, you know, I think from what I heard, he is definitely a decent defender, and especially with him being an international of the Swedish national team, I think that is definitely a solid signing for this St. Louis City team. And again, you know, even though it is a report, it seemed like most likely this deal is going to be done in just a couple of days. Now, the Philadelphia Union is also reported set to sign for Venezuelan forward Jose Riesco. I think Riesco, that's how you pronounce. Again, I am going to butcher these names when I first see it, but I feel like this is pretty much the backup for Michael Arud, and especially I think that Arud has had some issues so far, whether it's kind of like visa or some health issue in his early day with the Union, and especially the Union don't want to just have to put Sergio Santos going forward, and especially they know that Santos, yeah, you talk about a guy that he is just right now right now, that is Sergio Santos. Like, this kind of goes back to last year where he also had a lot of opportunity in the playoffs and he missed it, and then in that game against the Quakes, it's pretty much the same story. I think the Union realized that, yeah, Santos is not going to be the future, at least in that number 9 spot. So they're looking to trying to get this guy who, you know, again, I have heard some good things. He's a relatively young player, and yeah, we'll see whether or not if the Union is going to get this deal done. Now, Orlando City is reported to increase the offer to sign Racing left back Ignacio Galvan, and this is something that, you know, Orlando City are desperate to, in terms of addressing, knowing the fact that, you know, coming into this season, the fullback position was always going to be an issue that they had, especially in the depth area. But now, as the season goes along, they actually have issue in terms of the fullback position, where on one part of the fullback in Juan not having the start that they hope for, and then on the other end, you know, again, it's been an issue that kind of was the case heading into this season, where besides John Martino, they don't have anybody that can cover that spot. So, you know, it's no surprise that they're looking to try to sign a backup for it, and, you know, that's why they're trying to get this guy from Racing and from Argentina. But it's also going to be interesting to see how what the offer is going to be, because, you know, there's one thing of them being desperate in terms of having depth, but you don't want to overpay in terms of trying to sign a guy that probably is not going to have a lot of minutes, because he's most likely going to be the guy that's going to be in the second depth chart in terms of that fullback position. But yeah, we'll see whether or not if this deal, of course, eventually will get through. And then moving on into the last 2 news, and now talking about general news that happened around MLS these past couple of days. Well, Nashville SC has announced that they have surpassed 20,000 season ticket member at their brand new stadium that is named Geodis Park. I don't know if I have mentioned in the News of the Week episode that stadium is now going to be called Geodis Park, which it's a nice name. I guess they can maybe name it the Geo, guess what Nashville fans will refer. But yeah, you know, this is definitely great to see that, you know, Nashville is definitely getting a very strong support. I mean, I remember when they were heading into the expansion year, and how there was even talks of the fact that they weren't even able to get like 6,000 season tickets. So for the expansion year, people were kind of thinking that, Nashville was in trouble, and that maybe this idea of awarding Nashville an expansion team was not a great idea. But obviously, they have definitely showed the support, although, you know, winning, of course, definitely they will help that out. I mean, Nashville has been one of the more successful expansion team in recent year, and with the way that this season they look like they're going to be a top team in the Western Conference, it's no surprise the hype, of course, has surround that market. So yeah, you know, great to see that there is a big support, and I can't wait to see that stadium packed day in and day out. I mean, it's not going to be easy for that stadium to pack day in and day out, because that is the biggest soccer specific stadium at 30,000. But with the way that Nashville fans have really been good in terms of supporting their team, even during the time when they were at Nissan Stadium. Something tells me that that stadium would pack day in and day out, and as long as if the team, of course, continues to win. Now, moving on to the last news, we got the U.S. men's national team, and Greg Berhalter has announced that the final World Cup qualifier roster heading into these last 3 games of the CONCACAF World Cup qualifier will be announced tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern on SportsCenter on ESPN. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this World Cup qualifier roster is going to be. I mean, I know obviously there is a lot of concern for the U.S. heading into this final 3 games with the way that they lost Western McKennie, potentially long term, and maybe not be back at least for the World Cup. And then obviously they won't have Gio Reyna too, who's also suffering injury. I mean, those are 2 really key attacking players that this U.S. team is going to dearly miss heading into these final 3 games. But, you know, this is kind of crunch time. Like, this is really, like, these next 3 games will really determine whether or not if this team has made some progress throughout this 4 years and have learned their mistake that they had back in 2017. Because when you look at the standings, it is still no guarantee that the U.S. have qualified for Qatar. Like, it really comes down to these last 3 games, and that it's also just shows you that this roster that Greg Berhalter is going to be announced, yeah, this is the most important roster that he's going to announce during his coaching career with the U.S. men's national team, because I just have a feeling that if he gets this wrong, he could be potentially fired from this team. Like, there is no way that I think, like, I know there's been a lot of Greg Berhalter criticism, and I'm not really kind of one of those. I feel like there's times where maybe it's a little bit too harsh to say some of the way that Greg Berhalter team has lined up throughout this World Cup qualifying campaign, or even during his time with the U.S. men's national team. But you just gotta sense that, you know, this is really the measuring stick, and this is really where Greg Berhalter is either going to guide this team to the World Cup and them kind of just remove that tainted legacy that they had in 2017 against Trinidad and Tobago, or the fact that this is going to be repeat mistaking that there's no doubt. I don't think Greg Berhalter will survive if they don't come out of this final 3 games with them qualifying for the World Cup. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Oh, one more thing, I will of course make a video talking about the World Cup qualifier roster that the U.S. and Greg Berhalter is going to announce, and get ready for people to be very angry about it, because again, it feels like any time when a World Cup qualifying roster is announced, the U.S. men's national team fans and all those doomers out there are just going to complain, because that's just the way it is. So I'm going to try my best when they do announce the roster to kind of find some positive and also maybe some negatives in terms of the roster that will be announced, and also maybe talk about some snubs that didn't make it into the roster of this crucial final World Cup qualifying period, and these final 3 games that determine whether or not if the U.S. is going to be going to Qatar in November. But yeah, either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the news that happened this week here on the board, and as always, if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.